On the news, Presidential Task Force orders suspension of Almajiri evacuation as strange deaths in northern Nigeria worsens. Nigeria Central Bank pledges 100 billion naira to support research for COVID-19 cure. And Lesotho confirms index COVID-19 case. Thank you for joining us on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I am Annetta Felix. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has called on northern state governors to suspend the repatriation of Almajiri to their state of origin. Chairman of the task force and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, gave the charge during the daily briefing with journalists. Mustafa said repatriating the Almajiri children will only worsen the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Last month, northern governors agreed to clear the streets of Almajiri children by returning them to their parents and states of origin as part of measures to contain the spread of the virus. Still on the COVID-19 pandemic, the Oyo State government has said the strange deaths in different communities across the state are not related to COVID-19. In the last 21 days, Oyo State has recorded about 471 strange deaths. Health Commissioner and Vice Chairman of the state's COVID-19 committee, Mohammed Ghana, stated this on Tuesday at a media briefing in Damaturu, the state capital. He said the preliminary report of the investigative response team constituted by the state government confirmed that 90% of the mass deaths had no multiple case definition symptoms of COVID-19. And since the COVID-19 pandemic, strange deaths have been reported in various states, including Kano, Bauchi, and Jigawa. The United Nations has warned that the number of persons affected by malnutrition and hunger in the world could double as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Already, over 2 million children are said to be suffering from acute malnutrition in Nigeria. And given the latest projection of the UN, experts are calling on the governments to enact measures to forestall a looming hunger pandemic. Our correspondent has more in this next report.
In April, the United Nations World Food Programme announced that the world is at risk of widespread famines of biblical proportions caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The global health crisis and the resultant lockdown imposed by many countries has led millions to the brink of starvation. Back home in Nigeria, experts are worried that a situation of extreme poverty, hunger and malnutrition could result into a serious child rights crisis in the country.
There are in the neighborhood of 2.53 million Nigerian children that are severely malnourished that require urgent attention so that they will not end up being part of the mortality figures. COVID-19 will increase this number dramatically. When people are mobile, they can source a couple of things for themselves. But in situations where they are not mobile, then the means of livelihood is curtailed, simply because we want to ensure that we do not have community transmission, which is also legitimate, which is also good, but it also has this negative impact. So those who are weak within our system become weaker with COVID-19. And those who are relatively strong, they will also become weak.
As many vulnerable persons claim they are yet to receive any of the federal government's palliative packages, there are also concerns that the socio-economic impact of COVID-19 could push many households to resort to desperate measures for survival.
We really have a whole problem on our hand. In the rural areas, where people will think that, yes, in the rural areas, there's land. After all, the means of construction of houses, they use thatch and mud. Go there and see the number of people that stay in a room in those places too. A particular set of people are the ones that are receiving. They are receiving from churches, receiving from mosques, receiving from government, receiving from the wealthy people. And there are other people who do not have access, who may not have had the opportunity to get. So in other climes, what will have been ideal is to have one common basket, and then you can be able to trace how it goes.
In the midst of the negatives, nutritionists are advocating for additional counseling on dietary intake, which could strengthen the body's immune system against all forms of diseases, including the coronavirus. Adekunle, TV360, Nigeria.
No fewer than 20 nurses in Lagos State have tested positive for COVID-19. This is according to the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives. According to the group, the infected health workers contracted the disease in the line of duty. They decried the inadequate provision of personal protective equipment to all health workers and not just those on the front line in the fight against COVID-19. Over 150 health workers across Nigeria have been infected with COVID-19. The country so far has 4,787 confirmed COVID-19 cases, with 959 recoveries and 158 fatalities. Nigeria's capital city, Abuja, has continued to strengthen its capacity to address the growing number of COVID-19 cases in the country. Just days after the opening of a 506-bed space facility, Chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation has inaugurated a new isolation in Abuja. The center is equipped with a laboratory, X-ray and dialysis machine. It's a joint effort by corporate Nigeria to assist the federal government in the fight against the coronavirus. Tunji Oye now reports.
It's a world-class COVID-19 treatment and isolation center. The facility comes with a well-equipped laboratory for testing and diagnosis. At the other end are intensive care unit wards plus X-ray and dialysis machine. All beds observing social distancing is being provided with tissue paper, slippers, toiletry, cover clothes, and towel. The 300-bed capacity center is nothing short of excellence. All this in one location, this day dome in Abuja. This center is made possible by the collaboration of private sector, including the Central Bank, Chinese construction company CCECC, NMPC, Sahara Group, Coalition Against COVID-19, African Finance Corporation, among others.
The COVID-19 pandemic has brought a reawakening to both government and the private sector to collaborate in the injection of a much-needed investment into our healthcare system. The COVID-19 has totally overwhelmed even the best of health systems in the world, and that serves all developing nations a powerful notice to wake up. Today, we are witnessing the realization of the synergy with the commissioning of this facility, which is designed to accommodate 300 beds and is scalable to 500.
To thank the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and his members, as well as all those that were earlier recognized, for providing this facility, which there is no doubt will go a very long way in adding the bed spaces available within the territory for us to be able to use as treatment and isolated centers.
This handing over ceremony of the This Day Treatment and Isolation Center to the Federal Ministry of Health and the Federal Capital Territory Administration is a landmark achievement in collaborations between public and private sectors to fight a common enemy and rescue our country and people from the grip of the raving coronavirus disease. The case for all hands to be on deck to tackle the worst single public health emergency of our generation has been well made.
The aim of opening this center is to expand government's capacity to contain the spread of the virus and boost the capacity for testing.
For this center, ladies and gentlemen, our profound happiness is that we're part of this. And we're supporting the Sahara Group and all our partners to make sure that this works. And beyond this, ladies and gentlemen, as an industry, we are delivering medical facilities, infrastructure in all states of the Federation, and particularly setting up permanent structures in at least 6 of the geopolitical zones so that these facilities can actually outlive the COVID-19 period, so that it will be of use to the communities post-COVID-19.
So the facility is available in the event that it is required. We have testing, we have tracing, and we have treatment all in one facility.
As the nation strives to halt the spread of coronavirus, corporate Nigerians have promised to do more and support the fight to defeat the pandemic. From Abuja, Tunji Oye, TV360 News.
Security agents in Nigeria have been charged to ensure total enforcement of the federal government's ban on interstate travels. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, gave the charge while speaking on a motion titled Need to Enforce Presidential Order Banning Interstate Movement. Lawan also charged Nigerians to play their part in flattening the COVID-19 curve by adhering to the guidelines issued by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Our colleagues who contributed to this debate on the motion, to thank Senator Ike Ekwaramadu for this very important motion. There is need for total enforcement of the ban on interstate travels. Apparently, there is so much breach, and it appears like we are helpless. Our security agencies who are supposed to enforce this, in most cases, appear to look helpless. They need to sit up. This is a very serious challenge, health challenge to our country. But beyond interstate, even the observance of social distancing, the hygiene and other protocols sometimes suffer inside the states. I think it is very important that citizens do this, because this is for our sake. Government cannot be without citizens, and it is important that at this point we do this for our sake, for the sake of our family members.
To support the fight against COVID-19, the Central Bank of Nigeria says it has developed a framework for grants and long-term facilities to researchers and science institutions and biotechnology firms to develop Nigerian vaccine for coronavirus. Governor of the Apex Bank, Godwin Emefiele, announced this at a press briefing in Abuja. Emefiele says the fund will be released as soon as the vaccine is validated by health authorities.
The CBN recently launched a 100 billion naira healthcare intervention fund. Practitioners in the pharmaceutical and healthcare sectors will be able to access finance at single-digit interest rates through this fund. Our objective is to improve the capacity of our healthcare system to address emerging public health challenges. Furthermore, in order to encourage greater research and development in Nigeria of drugs and vaccines that would help prevent the spread of this virus, the Central Bank of Nigeria is developing a framework under which grants and long-term facilities will be provided to researchers, science institutions, and biotechnology firms to develop Nigerians' homegrown vaccines.
Lesotho has recorded its first case of COVID-19, becoming the last country in southern and East Africa to be afflicted by the virus. The country's health ministry says it has conducted 81 tests for COVID-19 from travelers from South Africa and Saudi Arabia, of which one was positive. The disease struck at a time of political uncertainty in Lesotho, with embattled Prime Minister Thomas Tabane due to step down by the end of next week after his coalition collapsed in Parliament. We'll take a break now and we'll return shortly. To stay with us. The Federal Executive Council has approved the revised medium-term expenditure framework and the 2020 budget. The estimated revenue revised estimates are based on $25 per barrel of crude oil at a production rate of 1.494 million barrels per day. Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed had earlier hinted that the government will make the revision based on declining international oil prices and the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed Ibrahim Gambari, former UN Under-Secretary General, as his Chief of Staff. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, announced Gambari's appointment at the Federal Executive Council virtual meeting on Wednesday. Gambari is the former Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations for the Department of Political Affairs. The indigene of Kwara State was appointed to replace the late Abakari. 75-year-old Gambari is currently the Special Advisor on the International Compact with Iraq and other issues for the Secretary General of the United Nations. Nigeria's highest decision-making body, the Federal Executive Council, has held its first meeting in almost 2 months. The meeting held virtually on Wednesday, May 13th, after it was indefinitely adjourned on March 18th in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, explained that most of the FEC members attended the meeting from their offices, while only a few aides joined President Muhammadu Buhari, who presided over the delegation either. Ahead of Wednesday's virtual meeting, the Minister of Communications, Issa Pantami, led some members of his ministry officials on Sunday to test run the equipment to ensure a hitch-free meeting. The Nigerian Senate is investigating the finances of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, to complement the ongoing forensic audits, which was ordered by the federal government. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, said this on Tuesday while inaugurating a 7-man ad hoc committee on alleged financial recklessness in the NDDC. Lawan said the investigation would avail the management of the commission an opportunity to defend the allegations against it. The NDDC is accused of misapplying and misappropriating 40 billion naira, among others. Lawan, however, assured that the committee is resolved to be open-minded and that the investigation is not a witch hunt.
The issues raised are allegations, and therefore the NDDC, the Commission, has the opportunity to come forward and defend its position. But we have a mindset. We have a mindset. And our mindset in the Senate is that we have to have a Niger Delta Development Commission that is effective and efficient in service delivery to the people of Niger Delta. This is the essence of setting up that commission. So we want to see a situation where the very limited resources that are appropriated for the Niger Delta Commission prudently, economically, and transparently deployed for the development of the Niger Delta.
We intend to discharge this responsibility openly, without prejudice, and without any preconceived opinion, other than to be open and to ensure that our process of inquiry will be transparent for the public to see in the best interest of our nation and the people of the Niger Delta. It is hoped that the investigation, when successfully carried out, will go a long way to block such loopholes that may prevent our public institutions from functioning properly in the best interest of the country and for the purposes for which they were established.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has directed its offices in Edo and Ondo states to reopen with immediate effect ahead of the governorship elections slated for September and October, respectively. INEC had closed down its offices across the country in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. But in a directive issued by the Commission on Tuesday, INEC said its new order is in line with the presidential directive of April 26th to gradually ease the lockdown measures imposed on the FCT, Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun State. The Commission has also ordered its management in the two states to consult with relevant state governments for the issuance of necessary permits, adding that all funds required to meet hygiene protocols will be made available to the two state offices as soon as possible. Guidelines require the use of face masks and harps on the need for social distancing at all times. We'll take a break now and return with business stories. Do stay with us.
James, I don't know. You know the answer your call. This. Hello.
Is this Mr. Peter? I'm calling from the NDDC. Your friend, Mr. James Okripocha, was brought in this morning and tested positive for the coronavirus. He mentioned that he had been in close contact with you.
God forbid bad thing.
Sir, I am not saying that you have the virus, but you have spent some time with him over the past 14 days and it is better if you self-isolate immediately.
I don't know any James at all. Even only James in the Bible that I know as a good Christian.
Sir, he showed us pictures.
Now, wow. If you have come in contact with someone who has tested positive for the coronavirus, self-isolating is key to protecting those around you. Remember, viruses don't move, people do. Stopping the spread is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
You're welcome back. We're now checking in with Fidelia Aguncha for the latest business stories.
Thank you very much, Annette. Welcome to the business side of the news. Oil prices fell on Wednesday on concerns about a possible second wave of coronavirus cases in countries easing lockdowns, which could prompt renewed movement restrictions, while industry data showed U.S. crude inventories are still rising. The concerns overshadowed a further call by Saudi Arabia for larger production cuts to balance the market following a virus-induced demand slump after the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, biggest producer, said earlier this week it planned to add to output cuts again. Brent crude dropped 40 cents to $29.58 a barrel, while U.S. crude fell 10 cents to $25.68 a barrel after rising 6.8% in the previous session. We'll now change focus to the stock market after this break. Well, after being dampened on Tuesday by noticeable sell-off in the number of large-cap equities, the NSE is closing positive today, up by 0.06%. The market is rising on the back of increased investment in major oil and gas equities amid news of a revised 2020 budget and booming foreign reserves. Mobil and Total right here pulled the most weight on the market today, posting a combined gain of 22.5 naira despite falling oil prices in the global market. It was also a good day for Unilever and Stanbic IBTC, with the value of both equities rising by 9.9% and 26% respectively. Now, on the flip side, MTN Nigeria is falling for the second consecutive day, despite major telecom organization posting gains this period when workers are at home. Fitsin is also falling. Champion PLC and UBA sit on the third and fourth spot of the losers chart. And the market summary: over 159.235 million equities were transacted in 1.5 billion. They are valued at 1.5 billion naira. They were transacted in 3,573 deals, and that's closing mixed compared to what we saw yesterday when they were all rising. And on the foreign scene, it's a red day for all the global markets. As you can see, FTSE Dow and Nikkei are dropping as investors begin to better understand the impact of the novel coronavirus on major economies across the world. And that is from the world of business. It's back to Annette Felix.
Thanks, Fidelia. Moving on now. Lesotho's Prime Minister, Thomas Thabane, says he intends to turn in his resignation letter on Wednesday, clearing the path for a solution to a political crisis that erupted in the country late last year. Thabane's 5-year tenure was due to last until 2022, but his coalition fell apart in Parliament on Monday, and he was required to step down by the end of the week to make way for a new government. The Prime Minister has been under pressure to resign over a case in which he and his wife are suspected to have conspired to murder his former wife, an allegation he has denied. Parliament is due to meet on May 22nd to appoint his successor and install a new government. The Czech Republic's Football League will return to action on May 23rd after being suspended since mid-March due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The country's League Football Association, LFA, says the league panel approved the restart of the top flight and the second division on Tuesday. The first league top division will resume on Saturday, May 23rd, with a postponed March, with first league teams also scheduled to play 6 regular season games each. After that, the top 6 teams will play another 5 games each for the title, while the bottom 6 teams will play 5 times in a battle against relegation, with 2 sets to go down. The 4 remaining teams in the middle of the table will play for a single spot in the European League qualifying rounds. That's it on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. Thank you for watching.